Have you seen Matilda? And have you felt like the authority figures or caretakers in your life haven't really taken care of you or nurtured you in the way that would be most beneficial to you as a human? If so, I might have a video for you. So I recently watched Matilda for the first time. I never saw it when I was a kid, and as I got older, I was aware of it and the love that a lot of people had for it, but kind of stayed under my radar and never really went back to it and checked it out. But I loved it. It was a fantastic movie. The sort of movie, that I fall for immediately. Magical realism is one of my favorite kind of genres or tools that a storyteller can use, and it's really just a beautiful film. I'd put this movie into a category that is one of my favorites, but I've never really had the best way of expressing what it is. It's kind of a collection of different categories and just things done well that I kind of lump all of these things into. It's not young adult, fiction, and it's not even necessarily for kids, but these kind of creators or content that has this tone that is filled with magic and light and a sense of wonder, but also is rooted and grounded in the reality of the world and like the struggles that we deal with. I think Roald Dahl did this to a wonderful degree in all of his works, especially his children's works, but even his short stories, his adult stories, still have this kind of humor and darkness and magic, but also realism, and they mix together in a really satisfying way. Another creator who's a favorite of mine who was masterful in kind of capturing this tone and this essence that I'm unable to name or identify is Bill Watterson of Calvin and Hobbes. I adored Calvin and Hobbes as a kid. I devoured those books over and over and over again. Pure satisfaction every time. No diminishing enjoyment out of those books. I loved them and will to this day read Calvin and Hobbes strips and enjoy them as much as I used to. They're so satisfying and so well done. And I think one of the things that's satisfying, well, one, I identified with Calvin a lot, being kind of a not necessarily a troublemaker, but a overactive and imaginative child who would often get into trouble with that, and expressing themselves more through their mind and their imagination than through other ways. But what I really loved was the way that Calvin would wander through the woods with his best friend, a tiger named Hobbes, and they would talk about the fleeting nature of time and the struggle of capitalism and greed and the way that humans kind of just take and don't always give back. And he wasn't a sad or an angry boy necessarily. He was just curious and inquisitive and kind of just looking at things. And I really loved it when I was a kid. And like I said, I still love it now. I think modern cartoons really capture this tone as well. They're more able to because they're cartoons, obviously, and magical realism is much easier when it's a cartoon. But I'd say things like Gravity Falls or Steven Universe, these things also really capture that essence. And I hesitate to say magical realism too much. I use that term a lot, and I probably use it wrong a lot. But I think that the best way that I could describe it is this capturing of childhood magic and innocence, but also rooting that in the challenges of the world and the difficulty and the things that we all face together, marrying those together without letting either one spoil the other. And Matilda did this beautifully in this story of a talented, magical, imaginative, bright young girl who is stifled by the things around her, by the authority figures and caretakers in her life, by her parents who almost forget she exists and neglect her when they are able to remember that she's a person living in their home. Parents who take advantage of other people to make their money, who use capitalism to take advantage of others and exploit them and come out on top in a really badly dignified way. Parents who would rather stare at a television than have a conversation with each other, even if that conversation were about the things on the television. And once Matilda goes to school, the authority figures are even worse, Trunchbull is a strict authoritarian with absurd and overblown punishments for even the smallest of infringements. She throws a little girl over a fence at one point for having pigtails. She locks children in a closet with nails in it when they've done something bad, even if it wasn't something bad that they did, but something their parents did. Just punishment for punishment's sake. Trunchbull is an expert at making others feel pain because she feels pain. And this isn't something we would ever want in an authority figure. Authority figures need to have authority for sure, but need to understand the people that they have authority over, need to be nurturing at the right times and inspiring at the right times and lead at the right times. But someone in a lot of pain who's only focused on expressing that pain by making other people feel it. As I was watching this movie and taking notes, what I was doing was essentially going through, and I started noticing a pattern of these authority figures abusing their authority or not taking it seriously or hurting others with it. And one of the things that I noticed was every time I wrote something down, it was very easy to make a connection to, oh, this is kind of similar to something the government has done to America. Or I would write something down and be able to make the comparison to capitalism and the way that we are treated as workers and lower class or poor people in this world. Or how I felt when I watched Trunchbull throw a little girl by her hair over a fence. And I don't want to make light of anything, but I felt the same way as I did this summer, and seeing another string of people of color who were killed because of the color of their skin. And again, it's not the same. I don't want to make light of anything, but the absurdity of it, the way that authority figures and people in charge treat those below them sometimes is absolutely baffling and shocking. And I don't really know what I'm trying to say with this video, but there's something that's been sitting with me since I watched this movie. And I think it's because of the events of this year, in the past 4 years, in my entire life. I feel like we haven't been taken care of in the way that humans need to be taken care of in a while. Just look at 2020. A lot of us feel abandoned by our government. A lot of us feel like we've been left out to dry and to just deal with this on our own. This system is a mess. It's only working for some, and it's hurting everyone else. Not only is it hurting everyone else, but it's not allowing them to live a true human experience. It's not allowing them to express themselves as they should. It's not allowing them to have free time to even look at themselves and say, who am I? What am I doing? What can I fix here? Where do I want to go? We're not given those opportunities. I remember how much hope I felt when I voted for Obama the first time. How much excitement I felt at the idea of change and maybe, oh, things could get better. Maybe life will become nourishing and enriching. And I voted for him again, still thinking, I'm hopeful. Things are going to change, but these things take time. I understand that politics takes time. The world's very different than it was in 2008 and before. A lot of that because of the situation that we went through with his administration and the things we experienced during it. But I also watched Donald Trump get elected, and I could see the same hope that things would change from these people that voted for him. It was maybe a corrupted or a badly dignified version of hope, and maybe it was hope expressed through hatred and anger, but these people were struggling in the same way that I was struggling. We're all struggling. This experience that we're being provided, it's not right, and it doesn't work, and it stifles, it restricts. I started rereading Super Gods by Grant Morrison recently as well, and there's a passage in here that I think sums up what I'm trying to say better than I could say it. We've come to accept that most of our politicians will be exposed, in the end, as sex-mad liars or imbeciles, just as we've come to expect gorgeous supermodels to be bulimic, neurotic wretches. We've seen through the illusions that once sustained our fantasies, and know from bitter experience that beloved comedians will stand unmasked, sooner or later, as alcoholic perverts or suicidal depressives. We tell our children they're trapped like rats on a doomed, bankrupt, gangster-haunted planet with dwindling resources, with nothing to look forward to but rising sea levels and imminent mass extinctions. Then raise a disapproving eyebrow when, in response, they dress in black, cut themselves with razors, starve themselves, gorge themselves, or kill one another. And like I said, I don't really know what I'm expressing here. Frustration with the way things have been, sadness at how much pain there is in the world, hope that we can fix that. I don't know. But I'm guessing you felt similar to how I've felt or thought things that I'm saying. If I know anything about humans, you've probably felt this way before. And here we are. The solstice just happened. Christmas is right around the corner. The darkest, longest nights of the year. There's a reason why this holiday has importance, and it's more than Jesus or capitalism or whatever. It's about the darkest, longest nights of the year, and how important it is for us to share light in that time, to all sit around a candle and remember that the sun is coming back and that there will be growth again. And this year has shown us that a lot of the systems that we live under don't necessarily work, or they don't necessarily work for us, or they don't enrich us in the way that they should. From our government to our jobs to the way that we live our lives as individuals. And there's a lot of growth to be found out of the struggles of 2020 and out of quarantine and out of these political difficulties that we've been experiencing. There's a lot of growth to be had. At the end of the movie, Matilda emancipates herself from her parents, basically giving herself up for adoption for her parents who would never have done it or thought to have done it. She goes to live the life that she has always wanted, around people who love her and who nourish her. And I know we can't emancipate ourselves from the US government. We can't necessarily emancipate ourselves from jobs, but we can emancipate ourselves from the lives we were living or the lives we were trapped in. And we can move towards something more, something greater, whatever we want. And hopefully, the more of us that do that, the more light we can spread, the brighter we can make this world, there will be change on a greater level as well. As above, so below. The individual is influenced by the systems around it, from top to bottom. The relationship has a correspondence all the way through, and so here we are, Christmas 2020. The longest, coldest, darkest nights of the year, on a long, cold, dark year. A year in which our politicians have argued over whether or not to offer another stimulus check for months, have gone on vacation several times since then, gone back and forth and bickered and bickered and bickered about how much or who gets what when people are struggling, people are losing their homes, people are having probably the worst Christmases they've had in their lives because our politicians can't stop arguing. I mean, isn't it their job to take care of us when things go wrong? To make sure that we have what we need as citizens of this country? Isn't it their job to ensure that their constituents are taken care of? Life on Earth needs struggle, I get that. But systems also need to be checked. And pain and discomfort are the ways in which this universe teaches us what we want to change. And we may have poor caretakers right now, but we can take care of each other and ourselves. Yeah, we're still under their yoke, but there's hope. We can love each other. We can live in the light. Like Matilda, we can emancipate ourselves and live the lives that we want to live.